Hello learners, welcome to this video lesson. I, Dr. Niradhar De, faculty member, School of Education, Indira Gandhi National Open University, welcome you all to this lesson. Today we are going to discuss one of the important topic of your course. Course code is BESC 131 and course title is Education, Concept, Nature and Perspectives. In this course, one of the topic that is school as an agency of education. Let us try to discuss the importance of school as an agency of education and what are the role of a school for providing education to the child. Beforehand, let me to say in this course presently we are in the third module. Title of this module is Agencies of Education, and in this module 4 lessons are there. First is family as an agency of education, second is school as an agency of education, third is community and media as agencies of education, and the fourth lesson is state as an agency of education. Mostly this module is specifically discussing on different agencies of education. We have already discussed in our earlier lesson that how family as an agency of education, and in continuation today we are going to discuss in this topic, in this lesson, that how school act as an agency of education. Before starting our discussion, let me to focus upon certain learning outcomes, and I am hopeful that after watching this video lesson and going through the part content of this module relating to school as an agency of education, you will be able to explain the concept of school as an agency of education. You will be able to describe the role of school for the development and education of the child as an agency of education. You will be able to establish relationships between school and home as agencies of education. How school contributes for the development of the home, at the same time how home also contribute, how family also contributes for the development of the school. These are the learning outcomes, and our effort will be to achieve these learning outcomes after going through this video lesson. Let us go forward. We have already discussed in our earlier video lesson about classification of or categorization of different agencies of education. Just like we can categorize agencies of education in 2 different categories, just like formal agencies of education and informal agencies of education. Under formal agencies of education, we can just club just like school, libraries, picture galleries, games, cinema, educational programs on radio and television. So, these are the formal agencies of education, and at the same time under informal agencies of education, we can just include just like family, community, religion, marketplace, fairs and exhibitions, media and free play, etc. are the informal agencies of education. And in this lesson, we are going to discuss school. So, school comes under the formal agency of education. In another categorization of agencies of education, that is as per the active and passive agency of education. Under active agency of education, we have the agencies just like school, family, community, religion, state, social clubs, games, entertainment programs, etc. And under the passive agencies of education, we can take the name of just like cinema, television, radio, newspaper, magazines, marketplace, etc. So, here what we are discussing school, that is as an active agencies of education. So, now mostly we can say that school is a formal agency of education as well as school is an active agencies of education, because in school both children as well as the teachers, both learners as well as the teachers, they involve themselves very actively. Okay. And you can say the environment in the school is just like a formal environment, because in a school day to day class is there as per a time schedule, a formal curriculum is there, formal assessment system is there. So, that is why there is a formal system that practices in the school. So, we can say that school is a formal system of education, and school is an active system of education, because in the school both teacher and students actively they participate themselves, actively they engage themselves, and actively they involve themselves in scholastic activities, at the same time different co-scholastic activities. Okay. So, now let us go forward to understand how school is an agency of education. First of all, I have already said that school is an important formal and active agency of education. After home and family, school is the second important place where the children acquire different learning experiences and modify their behavior. Try to understand here. You see, the initial stage that starts at the family, your home and the family. When you are coming in contact with the members of the family, you get education. Okay. They nurture you and they teach you. You understand about that the concept of a group living, at the same time do's and do nots, what is right and what is wrong. So, your early the grooming of your early life, that starts from the family. Okay. So, that is why further after family, when you enter in the school system, it may be in the pre-primary education or it may be formal education, that may be it begins from class 1. So, here school plays a very important role, and it is the second important place where education are imparted to the students, and modification of behavior of the learners, of the children are taking place in the school. Further, we can say the concept of school starts from the ashram in the Gurukul system of education. If I will tell you about the concept of school, I can say that the very concept of school, it has start from the environment, or you can say the ashram environment of the Gurukul system, environment of a Gurukul system, that is called as a type of residential schooling in the ancient system of education, where both the gurus as well as the sishyas as well as the disciples, they were living together. Okay. That is far from their home place. Okay. And they were going through different aspect of the life, and they are coming in contact with the social, with the environment, physical environment, and they follow their gurus, they follow the teaching of their gurus, the lecture of their gurus, and they try at that time, they try to practice it, transmit it, transform it in their life. Okay. So, that is why the schooling system, the formal schooling system, that has really started from the Gurukul system of education. Then further we can say teaching learning process was conducted in the Gurukul system through face to face interaction. Both the disciple and the gurus, they were interacting themselves face to face. Then guru were telling certain stories, that is called as storytelling, and the disciples or the learners, they were just understanding that story, the moral of that story. Then accordingly they were transmitting it, they were transforming it in their life, they are practicing it in their life. And the disciples, they were also engaging themselves in different types of hands-on activities. Okay. It may be related to medicine, it may be related to earning their you can say bread and butter. Okay. So, that is why they were engaging themselves in different types of hands-on activities. Okay. They were doing certain things that may be in different type, and they were also exposed to the nature for true learning. So, they were learning most of the time of their teaching, they were engaging themselves in the natural surrounding, or you can say in the nature. They were learning from the nature. And further, the objectives of learning were to understand life, nature, and acquire values, especially in the Gurukul system of education. Okay. They were getting training to live their life, they were getting training to lead a spiritual life, and they were getting training to understand their life is for what. Okay. And they were also engaging themselves in acquiring different types of values. It may be social values, it may be other types of values also. It was not memorizing the information, rather to reflect upon it in one's life practices. It is not only developing at that time just like a rote memory, just to development only the memory, rather you can say it was more than that. So, the education at the Gurukul system, that was really preparing the individual for living their life and taking leadership also. But now schooling is a formal center of education where the children need to be taught about the societal system, governance, civic structure, we can say, democracy, country, the concept of a country, then demography, different demography in a society or in a country, history, languages that we practice, then mathematics and different types of vocations. At the same time, when we involve ourselves to understand, for understanding our society, our societal practices and the democracy that we practice or the demography that we are having. So, mostly we are engaging ourselves in understanding the diversities, diversities in our society. It may be related to our culture, our languages and other types of diversities also. So, that is why the now the concept of schooling, this has been widened. In Gurukul system, it was just limited with a residential school, limited with ashram living, but now the system of schooling is not only limited in ashram living. Definitely residential school system is there. At the same time, here the concept of school, it categorizes or it includes the broader living of the individual. That means living for oneself, at the same time living for the society, living for the betterment of others, living for the betterment or for the development of the country, of the nation. And we can also say that it also prepare individual for living a global life. And further, the school system thus becomes an important agency of education in today's education system. Just like a society, school is also called as a type of miniature and subsystem of society. And we can also say that family is also a type of miniature of the society, a small form of the society, because it may be a family, it may be a school. We follow certain rules, we follow certain regulations. There is a system of living, and there is a system, there is a processes to do the things. So, that is why society is a larger entity, but school is a subgroup or subsystem, or sub entity or a miniature entity of the society, because the principle laws of the society are also being practiced in the school for taking decision and for engaging students. So, there is a system just like a society. Then further it comprises different stakeholders like teachers, students, parents and the government. You see, when we talk about school, it includes many stakeholders. Teacher is a part of the school because teacher teaches the students, teacher transacts with the curriculum by using different methods, activities, demonstration, techniques, strategies, and certain psychological principles also. Teacher try to learn, try to understand the children, then accordingly as per the strengths and weaknesses of the learners, teacher provide instruction. So, definitely we can say that teacher is one of the very important stakeholder of school. Then further, learners or the students are also the stakeholder, another stakeholder, because students are the real beneficiary from the school system, because whatever system has been developed, whatever processes that are being adopted in the school, that is for the students, means how the students will gain knowledge, how the students will be educated. So, the learning experiences and other types of teaching, it may be related to life skill, it may be related to development of scholastic and co-scholastic abilities that are being practiced and designed for the development of the students. So, that is why students are also another stakeholder of school system. Then at the same time, parents, community and government also, because without involving the parents, this is simply foolish to understand or to understand that there will be the development of education. So that's why parents are the part of the school, because directly parents come contact with the students, because further from the family they will come to the school. So that's why without involving the parents, no schooling system will be perfect or fulfilled. So that's why parents are also important stakeholder than government. So we all know that education is in the concurrent list of our constitution. So that's why it is the duty and responsibility of the government, it may be state government or it may be union government, that they will impart education, they will develop certain policies and they will provide education to the citizens. Okay. As per Right to Education Act, we can also say that now elementary education is one of the fundamental right for the children, for the citizens of this country, especially for the elementary education. So that's why government, the concerned government is also one of the stakeholder. They develop the curriculum, they provide funding, they establish the infrastructure for the school, and at the same time they develop a system so that at a place in the school both teacher and the students can work together. And further, socialization is also an important function of the school. School is not only to teach, provide education and provide new learning experiences to the learners. At the same time, school is also one of the important agencies that help for the socialization of the child, because every individual, every child is part of the society. They have to live in the society, they have to follow the societal norms, societal principles. So that's why developing the spirit of socialization and practicing the spirit of socialization is also another important aspect of school as an agency of education. Besides socialization, another significant function of school is the transformation of cultural norms and values to new generations. So it transmits culture as well as values from one generation to another generation. So school is one of the important agency that school helps the learners, first of all, for understanding the culture, for understanding the values, and further to practice those values among the students and to transmit it from one generation to another generation. And further, school undertakes different activities at different levels to ensure overall personality development of the child. Okay. School is not only responsible for the formal development, only for the formal development, only for the physical development of the students, rather it is also responsible for the development of the total personality of the child. It may be physical development, mental development, social development, emotional development, okay, spiritual development. So all types of development are possible in the school. Further, now let us focus upon the specific role that the school performs as an agency of education. So school performs two types of roles. One is called as the manifestation role and other is called as the emerging role. Try to understand what are the manifestation role and what are the concept of emerging role that the school performs. First of all, under manifestation role, we can say that preserving, transmitting and developing the traditional culture. This is one of the manifestation role of the school. What school does? School preserve the traditional culture. The culture that we follow, school just preserve that culture. And further, school also transmit that culture from one generation to another generation, because school is the place that it make the students, make the learners understand about our cultural practices and to transmit that cultural practices, that cultural values from one generation to another generation. And at the same time, school is also responsible for the development of traditional culture. It not only preserve and transmit, rather to develop. Many a time there is the need to develop our culture. Okay. So by using technology and by using by developing many literature, okay, So there is the need to develop the traditional culture. So school also plays an important role, important manifestation role for preserving, transmitting and developing traditional culture. Then further, another manifestation role is teaching basic and vocational skills. Try to understand. First of all, basic skills, that means the skills which is related with certain subject, the core skills. It may be literacy related skill, it may be computation related skill, and it may be life skills also. At the same time, school also promotes or helps the learner for developing different vocational skills, because after all, school prepares the young mind for practicing a type of vocation, for living their life and for earning the bread and butter and achieving, you can say, or for making self sufficient. So that's why the learners, they also practice many skills, many vocational skills, so that in future they can engage themselves in different world of work, okay, for earning the bread and butter and for living their life. And for the values and character education is also another manifestation role of the school. The school teaches about for acquisition of values, practicing values and developing a good character, developing a good moral character. So it also provides character education and value education to the learners. So all these are included as manifestation role of the school. And further, now let us focus upon the emerging role of the school. Under the emerging role of the school, we can say that the important life skills, just like self-awareness, effective communication, creative thinking, critical thinking, problem solving, coping with stress, coping with emotion, empathy, etc. So these are the life skills, and truly speaking, these life skills are really help the learner for living their life. Living their life doesn't mean that only to study the curriculum, only to study the subjects that are included or the topic and content that are included in the syllabi or the curriculum. Rather, it helps us for developing self-awareness, for developing effective communication, then creative thinking, critical thinking, then solving their day-to-day problem, that's called as problem solving, then coping with how we are able to adjust ourselves in different types of stress. Okay, stress is quite natural, you can say. So that's why how we cope ourselves with different stress. At the same time, coping with emotions also. So how we deal our emotional life, our emotional behavior. At the same time, how to practice empathy in our life. Okay, so these are the certain emerging role that the school does. Mostly this is related to the 10 different aspects of life skill educations. Further, it promotes functional literacy, just like reading, writing and arithmetic. From any schooling system, what we learn? We learn to read, that's the language development. We learn to write, that is also language development. At the same time, arithmetic, we also learn for computing the things. Okay, so that's why it promotes functional literacy, it literate the individual, literate the child, and at the same time it make the child acquainted with different computational skill, different mathematical skills. Further, school fosters creativity and scientific temperament of the children, of the learners. So the creativity of the learners are different. You cannot say that all are having a similar type of creativity. Okay, so school provide, or school is a place where the learners can exhibit, learners can express themselves as per their ability, express themselves as per their creativity and aptitude, and they have the scientific temperament also, and they always try to do certain new things. So that's why, keeping in consideration of their thought process, of their critical thinking, they also try to innovate certain new things. So that's why school provides that scope, that emerging role school performs. Then again we can say it also teaches learners to live together. Okay, so how to live together, how to follow the rules and regulations, how to cooperate to others, how to develop empathy so that one can live in a group or one can develop a sound living in the group, in the society. Okay, so that's why it teaches learners to live together. So friends, these are the roles that come under the emerging role of the school. Then further, now let us focus upon how school and home are interrelated with each other and the relationship between school and home. As I have already said that family and the home are the first center, you can say, first place where the child take education. Okay, family grooms the child, grooms the young child and educate the child also. The nurture at the same time provide education to the child also. And further, when the child enter in the school, it is the home, the grooming that is provided by the home to or the family to the children, they further help the children in the school for shaping their personality, for shaping their behavior. So that's why it is very much important to understand that how family or home and school are related with each other, how they contribute for the development of each other. Both school and home play an important role in the process of socialization of the child. Here home acts for the socialization of the child, functions for the socialization of the child or work for the socialization of the child, and at the same time home or school also works for the socialization of the child. And further, both the agencies of education are dependent on each other in terms of educating children and nurturing values among them. Okay. So, first of all, they nurture the children, they groom the children and they also practice different right values, different adequate values. It may be moral values, it may be empathy, it may be life skills, it may be democratic values. Okay. So, all these values are practiced both at home as well as in school. Further, schools organize parent-teacher meeting for ensuring parental involvement and participation in the development of the school. As I have already said that parents are one of the very important stakeholder in the school system. So that's why schools organize parent-teacher meeting so that they can talk about for the development of the child, the strong point and weakness of the child, the creativity of the child, the interest areas of the child. So that's why without involving parents in the system of schooling, then school may not function well. So that's why school parents are from the home. So that's why home is related with the school in such way. And further, home on the other hand fulfills the basic requirements of the children and prepares them for school. So this is the home that they take the responsibility of the child. Okay, they fulfill their basic requirements, okay, their basic needs. At the same time, they feed the child to enter in the school. And further, conducive environment at home influences the children in their involvement in school activities. The much better or a better environment in the home that further helps the learner for maintaining a good school life. So that's why this is also related with somehow school and home. And further, moreover, now we can establish other relationship between school and home, just like in the Right to Education Act, that's called as RTE Act, Right to Education Act 2009, it has been recommended to form school management committee, that's called as SMC, school management committee, through which the parents can contribute to the school development activities and establish better relationship between school and home. So here in Right to Education Act, I was just talking earlier, now elementary education is a right of the children of this country. Okay, state is responsible for providing compulsory elementary education in the age group of 6 to 14. So that's why in this way here in Right to Education Act, we can say that the important recommendation, that is SMC, School Management Committee, here in SMC parents are the member, teachers are the member, local government or the government as the panchayat level, they are also the member. So, mutually they work for the development of the school. So, that is why here also school and home or school and community, school and society are related with each other. They work for the development of the students mutually. Then it is quite evident that without the consideration of home, school cannot function well and vice versa. So, here both school and home are dependent on each other. Friends, now let us focus upon some of the important questions for your practice. Just like the first question discuss the importance of school as an agency of education, you have already gone through from this video lesson that what is the functions of school, okay, how school is one of the important place that provide education to the children, and how school fulfills as an agency of education for providing education to the child. Then you can explain the manifestation role of school as an agency of education. I have already discussed that there are two types of role that school function. One is the manifestation role and other is the emerging role. So that is why you can explain the manifestation role as an agency of school or school as an agency of education. Then further you can explain the emerging role of the school as an agency of education. And lastly, it will also help you to discuss the relationship between school and home. We have already discussed that how school contributes for home and how home also contributes for the school, and how home prepares the child for living a good school life. So, friends, today in this lesson we have discussed, just to recapitulate, we have discussed about the concept of school, starting from the very concept of the Gurukul system, the residential school in the ancient system of education, then the modern system of school, the varieties of functioning, the inclusive functioning of the school. Then further we discussed about the role of school, manifestation role and emerging role, and lastly we have also established a type of relationship between school and home. In our next session we will discuss about the other agencies of education. Thank you.